Have you ever wondered what it takes for a country to build a brand new multi-billion-dollar industry completely from scratch? Well, Saudi Arabia is placing a massive bet that it can pull it off in biotechnology. But, behind this huge vision, there's a really high-stakes debate happening internally. A clash between this powerful dream and a pretty sobering dose of reality.
So why all the effort? Why this massive push? Well, it all comes down to this number right here, $16 billion. That's the potential prize the kingdom is chasing. It's a huge part of its strategy to move its economy beyond oil. I mean, the ambition is just massive, and the economic stakes, they could not be higher.
But here's the catch. This is the central conflict. The vision, it's crystal clear. But a critical internal assessment is asking a really tough question. Is the foundation actually ready for something this big? And that tension is exactly what we're going to dig into.
All right, so here's how we'll break it down. First, we'll look at what the global gold standard for biotech even looks like. Then, we'll dive into a stark reality check from inside the kingdom itself. After that, we'll check out the plan to bridge that gap. And finally, we'll see how it all comes together in the proposed path forward. Okay, so to really get where Saudi Arabia wants to go, we first have to understand what the destination even looks like. What are the absolute non-negotiable ingredients of a successful, world-leading biotech hub? Let's take a look. Now, what's really fascinating here is the idea of density. It's not just about having a few shiny buildings scattered around. Look at Massachusetts, home to Boston's famous biotech cluster. They have one specialized life sciences incubator for every 140,000 people. That just shows you how incredibly accessible innovation support is for any researcher or startup that has an idea.
And that leads right into this next point. A thriving ecosystem isn't measured in concrete, it's measured in companies. Boston, which is the undisputed gold standard, has a mind-blowing 214 biotech companies for every 1 million people. That's the kind of critical mass you need to create this amazing, self-sustaining cycle of innovation, talent, and of course, investment.
So it all boils down to this really simple but powerful concept from the strategy reports. They call it the 1 mile rule. The best biotech hubs in the world are not these sprawling industrial parks. No, they are hyper-concentrated little clusters where a major university, a research hospital, venture capital, and regulators are all literally within walking distance of each other. That proximity creates collaboration, and that collaboration is what creates breakthroughs.
Okay, so we've seen the global benchmark, the dream scenario. Now we're going to pivot to a much more sobering view from inside Saudi Arabia, based on an internal report that, trust me, does not pull any punches.
So, the first major gap they found? Funding. As you can see, the top innovation economies are investing over 2.5% of their entire GDP into R&D. The current reality for the kingdom? It's less than 1%. And critically, a huge chunk of that is still focused on energy and mining, not on this new biotech future.
And then there's the actual physical infrastructure. To build a serious biotech sector, you need these super specialized, high-safety wet labs. That's where all the cutting-edge biological research happens. But the internal report flags a huge risk. There is literally no public data available on how many of these even exist in the country. You just can't build on a foundation that you can't even see.
And this hits on that classic "if you build it, will they come" problem. The whole vision kind of assumes there's a pipeline of local startups just ready and waiting. But the reality check says that domestic demand for these specialized labs seems low and is unverified. The biggest risk here? Building a multi-million-dollar facility that just sits empty.
So this brings us to the core issue the critique found. It's not just a lack of resources, it's a fundamental lack of visibility. They're flying blind. There are these huge data gaps on everything from the number of specialized researchers and high-level labs to manufacturing facilities and experienced mentors. These are the blind spots that make a huge upfront investment incredibly risky. But, the whole point of this internal critique isn't to kill the dream. Not at all. Instead, it's arguing for a smarter, more careful approach. Its conclusion isn't no. It's more like not yet. The report actually provides a constructive roadmap for how to bridge this readiness gap.
And this quote from that internal assessment just sums up the challenge perfectly. The gap between Saudi Arabia's current capabilities and the minimum required for a successful biotech accelerator is very large. Just acknowledging that gap is the first crucial step toward closing it. So how do you bridge a gap that big? Well, the report lays out this really methodical 5-step plan. You can think of it as a crawl, walk, run approach.
It starts with the absolute basics. First, do a national survey to figure out what you actually have. Then you build a real plan around those assets. From there, you don't go big. You build a single pilot facility to test the model and create a dedicated fund to support it. And only then, once that foundation is solid, do you start focusing on attracting those big global partners.
Okay, so we've got the billion-dollar dream on one side and the tough, sobering reality check on the other. The final strategic recommendation is all about synthesizing these two perspectives into a single actionable path forward.
And the key to this whole synthesis is a concept called TechBio. This is the modern way to do biotech. It's not just about biology in a lab anymore, it's about fusing that biology with artificial intelligence and massive computing power. This fusion dramatically cuts down the time and the cost of discovery, and it plays directly into one of Saudi Arabia's big existing strengths, its digital infrastructure.
And all of that leads to this final recommendation, a hybrid model. So not dozens of incubators, but one single flagship digital bio-innovation valley in Riyadh. Not just government money, but a matching fund to bring in private venture capital. And not old-school regulations, but a fast-track bio-sandbox designed to make the kingdom the best place in the world to test new AI-driven health innovations.
And success here isn't going to be some vague idea. The plan sets really clear internationally recognized KPIs. For instance, they're aiming for clinical trial approvals in less than 60 days, or making sure that over 15% of university patents actually get spun off into real companies. These are the kinds of metrics that show you're building a serious, mature ecosystem. And so we end with the fundamental question that's really at the heart of this whole national project. Can a nation, with enough money and enough strategic foresight, truly engineer an entire innovation ecosystem from the top down? Or are these complex systems something that can only grow organically, from the ground up, over decades? Saudi Arabia is betting it can build the future. And believe me, the world will be watching to see if it succeeds.